Hello?
There,
Is it
there he
working?
is.
What's up, everyone? Wow, there's a lot of people here. This is great. Look at you.
What's up, Brandon? How you doing? Oh, a little choppy over here.
Something like that. Just yell at me and I'll. That's what I'm. It says my internet is unstable. Well, that's not fun.
Just like my brain. Just like my brain, Brandon.
Exactly. Just like my life. All right. Let me close every tab I have open. And hold on. Closing everything on my computer. There's like 4 million things open. Anybody else ever have that problem where they have 4 million things open at one time? That's my life.
Just like my brain again, Brandon. Yeah.
All right. How's that sounding? Any better? I closed every tab I have. How's that feeling?
Yeah. It's been good the last couple minutes here. So
okay. Well, worst case, if it gets really bad, I'll go on my phone and we'll go that route. But right now I'm fancy with my camera. There we go.
All right. Brandon, welcome. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you for having me. I'm pumped to be here. I love talking with young people, especially. That's like my heart is young people and kind of people, especially young people who recognize that there's more to life than what the rest of the world does, which is kind of cool. You guys seem to be that type.
Yeah, that's what this group is all about. Brandon, I think I'll give you just a little bit of a background for what this group is, who they are, and then we'll move forward with some advice maybe, and then most of the meeting I think will just be Q&A. I think It's going to be some great questions. So these people before you, I think we got 40 people on right now. This is the Sheeks Freaks Mastermind group, and it is made up of young people from across the country, actually a little bit even outside of the US. Anywhere, I think our youngest member is 14 all the way up to like 24. And one thing, they all definitely are aspiring to reach early financial independence. That's a common thread, but also real estate investing is a common goal for many of these young people. There are some on the call who actually own real estate. Actually, one guy, Ben, was just sharing with us that he closed on his first deal today. We've had a couple other first timers in the last few months as well. So it's happening. Like, this group is crushing it. And I'll tell you, Brandon, from a personal standpoint, being involved with this group, I just consider myself a facilitator, but they are very, very inspiring, motivated, exceptional outliers, like just ready to crush everything ahead of them. And so it's a really fun group to work with. And the most exciting part is to see where all these people are going to be in like 5 or 10 years. They'll be our boss, basically. And so
I can't wait.
That's the group. We have, we meet in a Slack group and we do this call every week, and we just learn together and grow together and have fun. So what I want to start with, Brandon, if you're okay with it, I know one of the questions they're going to ask is, if you were my age, what advice would you give yourself? So let's kind of just start there, and you can go, Brandon, for a 1 minute, or you can go as long as you want. If you were, let's say 18, 19 years old, what advice would you give yourself?
All right. I'm going to go for about 45 minutes. So set a timer.
Where do you start, right?
Yeah. All right. And if you lose me, if my internet acts crappy, just like yell at me or whatever, and I'll re-say it. All right. So here's my first thought is this. I would have traveled to Europe for like 6 months. I'll just put that out there. I mean, I did it later on, but I was a little bit older. I would have gone and just had some fun, like traveling Europe and seeing the world, because it's easy to get sucked into like business right away. And so that would have been fun. Now I did college instead. I could give or take college. Like it's great if you have a purpose for it. Regardless of your decision on college, I still think it's good to spend at least a few months doing some traveling if you're into that kind of thing. But what would I do differently? So I always say, or what would I do if I was that age again? I always say that young people have like the greatest advantage because everybody older than them pretty much wants to watch them succeed. Like, I don't know any real estate investor like my age or older that wouldn't love to help somehow an enthusiastic young person, achieve their goals. But once you get like my age, like people don't really want, like they don't want to help me achieve my goals. I'm old and decrepit, and so they don't really care, right? Like they're like, go, stop bugging me. But like if you are excited, I mean, like people love to help younger people. So that's the first thing I'd say. I always tell people is like, don't look at your age as a liability. It is the greatest asset ever. That said, like just asking people like that are influential or big investors or business owners, like, hey, can we go out to lunch? Doesn't mean they're necessarily going to want to. They're still busy and there still are, conditions there. But just young people who are excited and then actually take action on the things that are told of them, just fires everyone old up. I mean, I got started like in real estate really as a buddy named Kyle, a guy named Kyle. He was like 50 probably when I was like 20. He's probably closer to 60 today. Well, I guess he's pretty old. Maybe he was 45 when I met him. Now he's probably closer to 60. He was an airplane pilot. He owned like 20 rental properties. And so I got to know him when I was 20 or 21. And like, I just like started painting houses for him and crawling under houses, fixing pipes. Like I didn't know how to do that stuff. I just like pulled up YouTube videos or whatever was around at the time and figured the stuff out just to provide value. And I wasn't like meeting with him every day to pick his brain. I was just providing value and just wanted to be around him because he just knew so much more about real estate than I did. And, it didn't take that long before I eclipsed him in the number of units that I owned. And then, today I own, 50 times more than he owns probably. But it was just such a great way to get started. And he loved it. He just loved pouring into me. Again, I think it's most old people don't have anybody young in their family to like mentor or to like pass on the family business to. Like most investors' kids couldn't care less about investing. So you get to kind of be that pseudo child that they never had, which is fun. So anyway, that's the first thing I do is connect with an older person that you can just like rely on, specifically one in your area. It's different online. I mean, I know we're all in an online world, but it's really hard to have the lasting mentorship and relationship from somebody that's online versus somebody that you can go and meet at their house on a Saturday morning to go clean up leaves because that's the value you're going to provide. That's just a totally different situation. And I love that scenario. So I would find that person just like I did, and I would do it again and connect with them. Also, like nobody asks your age or cares about your age when you have the best deal in town. So if you want to get into real estate, like I'm into, like nobody cares about your age when it's like you got a property that's going to make a ton of money. Like people will partner with you, they'll lend you money, they'll do whatever because you got such a phenomenal deal. So what does that mean? It means focus on being really, really good at finding deals. Another advantage y'all have is that older people don't read books. Like the average, I can't remember, it was like 70% of Americans haven't read a book in the last year or something crazy like that. Like older people just don't read ever, but younger people, like you're already reading anyway. You're used to that because of high school or college or whatever. So don't lose that. Use the skills you know how to learn and educate yourself on the things that are important for real estate, like finding deals, like knowing how to do direct mail marketing would be such a great skill. Knowing how to knock on a door and talk to a seller, knowing how to send direct mail, knowing how to do all those things that are not complicated. They just take some time. And then knowing how to analyze properties. If you know how to get leads coming in and how to analyze, like you'll find people to work with you if you want to buy a property. So there's a few thoughts. I could keep going, but I'll try to keep it somewhat succinct today.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. And I think what we're going to do now, we'll switch over to Q&A. And like I said, this is going to take most of the meeting, and we'll respect your time and should be done at the top of the hour. So what we're going to do for this, since we have 40 people on, is we're going to actually do the raise your hand thing. So they can virtually raise their hand, and you should be able to see it on your screen. I see a bunch of them right there. And so you can just say their name. They'll ask a question. You answer it to the best of your ability, and then say someone else's name. I'll help you out if needed. And we'll just do it that way.
All right. So if I'm looking at this correctly, I opened up the participant area and I see a bunch of hands raised next to about a dozen people's names. Is that correct?
That's correct. And then also, guys, members, when Brandon has answered your question, please remember to put your hand down. And let's do this. This is me being a teacher right now. Once you've asked one question, you're done until, unless nobody has any questions, which probably isn't going to happen. So you get one question, everybody, make it a good one. And then put your hand down, virtually put your hand down once you're done. All right, Brandon, it's all you.
All right. All right. I was going to go in order. I think the first one is, am I going to say this right? Jabbar. Am I saying your name right? Jabbar.
Yes.
All right.
What's going on, Brandon?
What's going on?
I'm living the dream. My only question, I guess, is what tips do you have for raising private capital outside of your personal sphere of influence?
Ooh.
And I'm going to jump in here.
Yeah.
Brandon, I'm gonna toot Jabbar's horn a little bit.
Please.
Jabbar is 19. He's in the Marines. He's already closed on his first house hack. He has, I think, 5 tenants in that house hack.
Wow.
He filled it while he was across the country on assignments. And now he's looking to buy another property, which is why he's asking you about private money. So
amazing.
Yeah.
All right. A couple of thoughts here on private money. First of all, private money by very definition is people within your sphere of influence or within your network. So the way I would answer that then is the better question, how do you expand your network to raise more private money, right? So you don't, I mean, unless you want to go into like a, weird syndication or some kind of big gigantic deal where you're like advertising a 506c fund, which I don't think that's what you want to do right now. Like it's more about how do you build that network to get more people. So a couple of thoughts. Number one, you'd be surprised at the number of people out there who have money today. Like it's shocking. Like the mailman, the guy that works behind the meat counter at the grocery store, like all these people have like hundreds of thousands of dollars right now sitting in their stock accounts because the stock market's been crazy lately. And everybody in the entire US right now is like a little freaked out because they feel like a crash is going to come at some point. And so it's like the best time to raise private money in the history of real estate investing in America. I really believe that because it's like the perfect storm right now. People worried about the future, but they have a lot of money. So the first thing I would say is even within your current network, there are probably people who have that. So what I generally tell people is first, obviously talk about real estate with everybody you know. Come up with a way to make what I call framework. This is something that I wish I would have taught early on in my life. Is everything I do, I try to make it into a framework. And what I mean by a framework is something tangible that you can grasp. So if you were just like going to somebody and you're like, yeah, so I invest in real estate and then like, people give me money and I sometimes do stuff with that and I buy their properties and then we do this. That's just a complicated thing that most people are like, yeah, no, thank you. But when you put it into a framework, for example, I'm just spitballing here, but like, I own a company called XYZ, and we have a process called the XYZ process, or the XYZ team process. And what we do is we partner with individuals to come alongside us, and together we invest together into a real estate deal. Or I might call it something like even a better framework would be like I call it the DC Marvel tactic. And they're like, what's the DC Marvel tactic? Well, think about like DC has like a team of like awesome people and so does Marvel. Imagine you come together and you got like Batman and Thor fighting a bad guy. Think of how powerful that would be. So that's what we do in our company. All of a sudden, what you've done is you've taken an abstract concept and made it a framework that people can grasp. And people are much more likely to say yes to things when they have a framework to grasp. So examples of that, the entire concept of house hacking, right, was a random thing that everyone did. And no one ever knew what to say. They're like, I just bought a property. I lived in one of the units. I rented out some of the other ones and I kind of got to live for free and it was kind of cool. And so then I called it house hacking back about 10 years ago and it took off. That was a framework people could understand. Burr is another framework. My company, we call ourselves a cash growth fund. We made that up. It doesn't even mean anything. It means like we give cash flow and growth. But by putting that, we tell everyone we have a cash growth fund. We put a little trademark symbol next to it. Everyone thinks it's like a thing, and people want to invest in things. They don't want to invest in your random thoughts. Does that make sense? Am I making sense so far?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Perfect. So yeah, so that's the first step. Our first step is like thinking through what is that framework you want? What exactly do you want in raising that money? Is it somebody to bring in 50% of the money or 100% of the money? So defining your program is pretty important. And once you have that, you're just telling everyone, this is what I do. This is what I have this program. And then obviously just trying to build that network is literally talking to everyone you know, and then asking people, do you know anybody who would be interested in this XYZ framework? You got any follow-ups? I mean, where else can I go on that question? Anything else you want to know on that one?
No, I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Cool, man. Well, good luck. You're crushing it. We'll go another question. Let's try next one down would be, Abigail Gibson.
Hey,
There you
Brandon.
are. Hey, what's up, Abigail Gibson?
All right, so I got a whole list of this, but we got to narrow it down to one.
All right.
Got to let everyone get a chance here. So I know you're a pretty busy guy, obviously. You got a lot of business ventures going on.
Too many.
What we want to know is, how do you basically juggle all those? Are there frameworks that you use to say, okay, like, here's how I save time managing all this?
Yeah. Yeah, so I will caution everyone with this. What I do is not what you should do. And almost nobody should do what I'm doing right now. And I'm in a very unique position to do it. And it's driving me crazy what I'm doing. And so I shouldn't be doing it. But the analogy is this. I've used it many times and I'll say it again. If you live on like this island over here, let's say this book right here is an island, right? You're on this island and you want to get to this island over here. And in our imaginary world, there are no such thing as boats or helicopters. You have one option and you can build a bridge. So a bridge from this island to, Blue Book Island to Red Book Island. So what almost everyone does is they build a bridge and they start building, and then they start building another bridge and then another. And maybe one of those bridges is their career, like, going to college and getting a career. Another one's going to be starting a real estate rental property business. Then they're going to house hack. They're also going to do some flipping. They want to do some wholesaling. They're going to start an Amazon business. They're going to sell crap on Amazon. And then they're going to start a coffee company. And they're going to do that as well. And then they're going to, you see what happens is we only have so much time and resources. And the more bridges you are building, the slower every bridge gets built. Right. So now it's impossible to do just one bridge, probably. I mean, you might have a couple there going. You might have your career or college and also your real estate. But the first thing is picking your focus and just going all in on that is so important. Another way another analogy I give is, how many of you have ever been to a carnival where they have that activity or that ride, not a ride, I don't know what you call it, like a thing where everyone gets a squirt gun and there's like all these targets set up. There's like 8 targets and you have one of the target. The guy next to you with a squirt gun, he has a target. The guy on the other side has a target. And the better you hit your target, the faster your little like horse moves across. How many of you guys know that? Just raise your actual physical hand if you know what I'm talking about. Okay, good. Most people kind of get that concept. They haven't met a lot of carnivals, or at least did. Do they even do carnivals anymore? Is that a thing? Like people come and go to your town with a carnival? I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Not during COVID anyway. But so imagine if you had you have one target and you've got all these squirt guns and you're aiming, if everyone at one time shot one target, imagine how fast that little horse would run across the stage. But if you've got 3 targets, you're only putting a third effort on each one. So you guys get the point, right? So here's why I'm different than most people. Because I am rich. That's the short answer, right? So it's like Batman, right? What's Batman's superpower? I'm rich. I can afford to hire full-time people on each one of these. Until that point, you should not have that many bridges. So what I do, I look at it this way. I have one bridge. My bridge is called the brand of Brandon Turner. It's like this. And then that bridge, I push that, and then other people are building my other bridges underneath it. So I'm building like the master bridge. So how do I choose? How do I focus? What framework? So I'm a big believer in having a system by which you achieve your goals, like set goals and achieve goals and work on your goals. So a big piece of that is, I've got this like journal, and you don't have to have this journal. There's 100 of them out there that are all very similar, but this is called the intention journal. And like, literally, like I write in this, why is my watch calling me? So I write in this, like every week, just about. I miss some weeks, but I'll write on Sunday night. I write down what my goals are. I track my habits. And then every day I write down what I'm going to do that day to accomplish them. And I limit it to 3. There's 50 things I'm trying to accomplish in life, but I only have 3 goals. Everything else I call a like pursuit or maybe something that would be cool. But I have 3 goals that I'm pursuing, usually one business, one personal, one relational. Typically like a fitness would be a personal one. Dates with my wife would be a relational one. And buying $50 million of real estate would be a business one. So by eliminating all that other stuff and saying, this is what I'm going to work on core on, and then having a system by which every week you review it and every day you review it, and you always know what your next step is, you can accomplish anything. It's kind of absurd. If you want to get even more in depth, I do a system called EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System, which comes from the book Traction. Raise a physical hands here. Anybody read Traction before? A few of you. Okay. Traction. It's super boring. The first time I read it, I was like, this is a lame book. And I didn't get it. And now I think this is the most life-saving book I've read in many years, because this basically takes the entire world of trying to build businesses into a framework, a system of this is what you do every single day. This is how it gets accomplished. So between these two things, having a journal and that's how I stay focused on the things that really matter. But I'm still doing too much. Everybody does too much. In fact, the last thing I'll say on this point is I did some consulting back about a year and a half ago where I did a fundraiser for my brother. My brother had a car die and he was broke and he needed a new car. So I said, hey, anybody who donates $500 to my brother's car fund will get an hour call with me. I ended up like 40 people ended up donating. He ended up getting like a ton of money and bought a brand new car, and it was great, and paid out some credit card debt. But every one of the 40 calls I did, every one except for maybe one or two, had the same problem. They're all building too many bridges. Can anybody else here identify? Anybody else tend to take on too much? Yeah. It's this constant battle that we have as achievers to do more. And so Greg McKeown, I think is his name, has a book called Essentialism. It's the disciplined pursuit of doing less. And I love that concept, the disciplined pursuit of less. And that's kind of sums up that. So how's that feel?
That was awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, good. All right. Let's go next one down the list here. Wyatt, and I'm not even going to attempt to say your last name.
Celeste.
All right. That's exactly what I was going to say.
All right. So I'm trying to figure out how to do a bird deal, but I've run into some problems with regarding to the financing. So
okay.
my plan was to do private money or hard money to finance the initial purchase, and then for the cash out refi. So I'm in college, so I don't have a full-time job. So I was struggling getting my DTI to a healthy ratio for a conventional bank to accept it. So I started looking into portfolio loans for doing the cash out refi. So I was wondering what your thoughts were on using portfolio loans or any other suggestions you might have.
Yeah. So I like portfolio loans enough. For those who don't know, portfolio loan is a loan that you get that it's from a bank that has fewer regulations because they're not lending the government's money. They're lending their own money is the roundabout way of saying it. So because of that, they have fewer regulations. That said, their regulations are usually pretty in line with the government's. And if you can't get a regular refi for debt to income reasons, you're probably not going to get most portfolio lenders to do it either. There are exceptions, of course, but my thought is it's going to be it's going to be an uphill climb. Have you already bought the property yet, or are you just thinking ahead the whole steps?
No, I'm thinking ahead. So I wanted to get the refi sorted out before I did anything else.
Very smart. Yes. So the way that I did it when my very first burr was I was 22. I bought a house when I was 21, maybe it was 23, but I bought it when I was like 21 or 22. And then I held it for a year and then I refinanced it, and I couldn't get the loan. It didn't have the DTI, didn't have the credit, didn't have anything. So I added on my dad as a partner. Now he didn't put any money into it. Really. He just signed on the loan. And then it was no problem whatsoever. Now for that, it doesn't have to be a parent. It could be really anybody who has good income and credit. And so that's the way I did it. And there's this gut feeling that I had and other people have all the time, which is, well, I don't want to share my profit. Like I like having it. But just one of the biggest lessons I think you can take when you're young is that nothing you do in the next few years is going to make you rich, but everything you do in the next few years is going to make you rich. What I mean by that is like, that burr deal, like you do your first one, you make $200 a month in cash flow afterwards, or $100 a month in cash flow. Like, what's that really do? Like in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing, but it's everything because it gives you the confidence, the motivation, the momentum, the excitement, the networking, the responsibilities, the education, you get all that. And so I have zero qualms at all for anybody like doing partnerships. I think if you could find somebody to help you with that piece of it. And the great thing about burr is like, they don't have to like, you could almost like do the project, and then if you have a problem, add on the cosigner later. It might cause some issues. We might be getting a little in the weeds here, but when you add a partner later, it could reset the time, what we call seasoning, which means you might have to wait another 6 months after adding a partner on in order to refinance. But the benefit is if you decided just to sell the property, you don't have to split any profits at all if you could get the loan ahead of time. So anyway, I like portfolio loans. If you can get it, great. But I would be more interested in doing it with a partner. And this applies to everybody here. Any deal you do, like who cares? You could give 99% of it away. Your first 10 deals, you can give 99% away. It wouldn't matter because those 10 deals don't really matter for financial reasons. They matter for relational reasons and education reasons right now. So yeah, just general advice to everybody. Don't be afraid to partner with people, even giving them most of the deal if you have to make it happen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, next one. We got Jackson Coulter. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. I actually have a question. It's about W-2 or self-employed. I have a great opportunity to join a team to sell houses and be an agent, but I've heard all the horror stories about not being able to get a property because of W-2.
Yeah. Yeah. So a couple of thoughts there. One, it's only the first couple years that it's a real problem without a W-2, right? If you're a good agent, if you can make good money as an agent, then, a couple years in, you're going to be fine. They're going to average the last 2 years. So if you can make 50 grand this year as an agent and 100 grand next year, then you can get a loan and they'll say you're making around $75,000 a year. It's still annoying. I hate being self-employed and trying to get loans. It's always difficult and obnoxious. I am actually a big fan of having a W-2 and trying to build a real estate business. I mean, today, like technically I don't work 40 hours a week at it, but I get a W-2 from Bigger Pockets because it helps me qualify for more loans. And so that I like having that stability. If you think you're going to be you're going to love being an agent and you think you can crush it as an agent, then yeah, go be an agent. Don't worry about it. Like there's 100 other ways to finance real estate deals without getting the loan in your own name. Like what I just mentioned, the partnership thing. I mean, imagine if you're an agent and you're an awesome agent and you could use your commission as half of the down payment to partner with someone. And now you get half the deal and they're going to help you finance it. And so you can do 2, 3, 4, 10 times as many properties because you're awesome. And you don't even need to worry about not being able to get a mortgage on your own. So there's no right or wrong on that, but I would just make sure that you want to be an agent and that's something you can pour your heart and soul into because 99% of agents out there just suck. They're just terrible, terrible. But if you can be in the top 1%, which doesn't take that much effort, it just takes being halfway decent, then you can make a lot of money as an agent. So there you go. All right. Next one. Daniel. Philpott? I'm not sure if it's like Philpott or Philpott. Where do you put the accent on that last name, Daniel?
Philpott, but I've heard it all.
All right. Philpott. All right. What's up, man?
Hey, appreciate the time today. Joining us. So I hold the title as the oldest member of the group. But my question is, how do you make the shift from operator to investor? So I really like the analogy you gave of selling your tools. You mentioned it in a podcast, or giving away your tools, just getting rid of them so you could focus more on being the investor and building teams. I have a couple of properties in my belt, but I'm just trying to figure out when that point is. Is it when you make enough to hire somebody? Is it before that in order to grow quicker? So if you could just talk about that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, for me, it started with, so first of all, it's an identity shift more than anything, right? So it's an identity shift, meaning like, who do you think you truly are deep down? Like we all have these identities that we live in. And so I had the identity of a scrappy, do-it-yourself entrepreneur, real estate investor. That was my identity. And I clung to it for a long time. And I slowly transitioned out of that by making little changes because your identity is reinforced by the actions you do repeatedly. So the more I started outsourcing, the more my identity shifted. And I even shifted it slightly by working with a performance coach. And I kept using this analogy of being a general. A general in a war would not pick up a gun and go fight the bad guy in the front lines unless it was like, the enemies were busting through the door at the back of the battle. Like then they're gonna do what they need to do. But generally, the general is looking at a map over its in it. So I have to tell myself over and over and over that I'm the general. I even have I had a sign, I don't remember what it is now, but I had a sign in my office that said something like "You are the general." And so anyway, so identity shift is a big piece of that one. And the first thing I outsourced was I don't want to have to talk to tenants ever again. I just was like, what do I hate? What feels heavy? One of the most important questions I can give to every single person here is something that my performance coach posed to me is, does that feel heavy or does that feel light? And the more you start to recognize what feels heavy and light, it's not about easy and hard. Like raising whatever, $40 million in the past 6 months, that feels light. It was the most difficult thing I've ever done probably, but it felt light. Every minute I was like, this is great. I like doing this. It's light. So it's not about difficulty, but talking to a tenant on the phone felt so incredibly heavy to me. I was like, how do I never do that again? So I hired my mother-in-law at like $200 a month for her first few months to answer all tenant phone calls and then follow this script or follow this process. And all of a sudden, like, I didn't have to talk to a tenant anymore. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, I like being an investor. I like being a general and not an operator and not the guy doing all the stuff. So it starts slow. There's an amazing book out there that's called 80-20 Sales and Marketing. Have you read that one? Anybody? Right then, 80-20 Sales and Marketing. I'd put that on everybody's list to read. It's called 80-20 Sales and Marketing by a guy named what's his name? I don't remember his name. Anyway, 80-20 Sales and Marketing. It's phenomenal. And it goes through a lot of different topics, but one of them is the idea that everything you do has $1 per hour attached to it. And when you realize that, you start having other people do the lower dollar per hour tasks, and you start doing higher dollar per hour tasks. For example, what's it cost? What are you going to pay someone to mow your lawn? $20 an hour? So that is a $20 an hour task. What are you going to pay someone to negotiate a real estate deal with a private seller? $1,000 an hour? Like $5,000 an hour? Like those are two, they take the same hour. It's the same amount of time, but one's worth significantly more than the other. So I just constantly would tell myself that as well. And that helped me become more of the investor side, more of the general side. And then again, I sold my tools, so I stopped doing the work. I even moved across the ocean to get away from my rentals. And so now I literally moved to an island, so I can't work on my properties. Maybe extreme, but sometimes that's required. So yeah, that's anyway, it doesn't have to be overnight. It's a slow change, I guess, the long story short. And but yeah, it happens. Coincidentally, I wrote a song called Long Story Short. Check it out on my Instagram. At some point in the coming weeks, I'm going to post it. It's pretty good. I liked it. Anyway.
Thanks,
next
Brandon.
question. Is that good? Is that feeling all right with that? All right. Abby Link.
Hello.
What's up, Abby? I know you, Abby. What's
I
up?
know you responded to my video. Very
We're
exciting.
we're like BFFs now. This is good.
Yeah, we're BFFs. I love it. Okay, so I have a question. I think I went to some sort of virtual event situation, and I think it was with Leica. And you had said that I think it was AJ Osborne. You're like, this dude really stood out to me. And I think you used the word lion killer. And I just wanted to see if I wanted you to like kind of define what does a lion killer look like to you?
Yeah. So the analogy of the lion killer, it came from, there's two stories like in the Bible, but one of them was David and Goliath. Everyone's heard of that one. So when David was going to go fight this giant, Goliath in the story, he goes to the king of Israel and he says, hey, why aren't you guys fighting this giant? And they're saying, because we're afraid. And he's like, I'll do it. And the king's like, okay. And I'm like, I'm reading that once and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would a king let like a little kid who's like 12 or 15 or whatever he is at the time? I don't know. But like, why would they go let that kid go and fight a giant like that? Like, because whoever loses that battle loses the war. It's kind of like that was the proposition that the giant was giving is, hey, whoever wins this little mini battle will win the war. The reason why is not because David like looked good or, was fast or whatever. It's because he had killed a lion. Like he literally like murdered a lion recently. And so he had the background to back it up. So that's where that concept came from. There's another story. I don't remember where it's from, but it's somewhere in the Hebrew Bible, but it's about this guy who jumps into a pit on a snowy day and kills a lion. Again, so the whole point of the lion killer means that when they come to me and they get into my world, they have been proven to have killed a lion in the past. I don't want them to talk about how good they are. I don't care about resumes. I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't even know who on my team has a college education. I have no idea. Like, I'm assuming my finance guy has a college education, but I don't actually know if he does. Like, I found out like 2 days ago, Ryan, who like was my COO and he's like runs my entire life. Like I found out he's like, yeah, I never went to college. I had no idea. Why? Because Ryan is like the biggest lion killer I know. Like Micah was a lion killer. Mike was a lion killer. AJ Osborne, lion killer. That's why I'm partnering with him. He's taken down so many lions in the past that when we go to battle against a bunch of lions, I'm not even worried about it. Speaking of lions, did you know back in ancient Rome, for fun one time, they took 1,000 men and 1,000 lions and threw them into a pit to fight to the death, or into a stadium to fight to the death. That's a supposedly true story. It might be exaggerated over the years, but I heard that once. I thought that was pretty cool. So anyway, that's what that means is lion killers are people who have the reputation and experience of being awesome. Like if you're not awesome, you're not on my team. If you're not a lion killer, I don't want to work with you, because it's just, I've worked with so many mediocre people in my life and people who claim to be good at what they do, but they haven't killed a lion. So I want to work with lion killers. That's what it is. All right. Chase Goulet.
Hey, you actually got that. I am shocked that you got that. Most people just say Gillette, like the
Gillette,
razor
like the yeah. Well, I don't shave, so I wouldn't
the
know.
razor brand.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very nice. So, I mean, Brendan, where my head's at right now is how do you go about building a team, right? Because that's a question that's been on my mind a lot recently. How do you go about building a team that can operate efficiently without you having to give them like every single little order to do? How do you kind of give them that sense of self so that they can make their own decisions and whatnot?
Yeah, you hire lion killers. Next question. I'm just kidding. I'll keep going.
Real helpful.
All right. So truthfully, that's a piece of it, but I'll expand. So the question you're asking is probably the number one biggest question every CEO in the world has asked since the beginning of the world, right? It's the hardest thing to do. How do you find people who take ownership and will accomplish things without you telling them what to do? It's difficult, but here's how I've found it. Number one, I don't just hire people. This is something I've learned a lot over the last couple of years, is I don't just go and hire someone because I don't know if they're the type that will just do what needs to be done without me telling them.
Right.
So I find little ways to test them first. So I partner with people on individual deals, or we'll take down something small, or we'll go work on a little project together, or we'll do something tiny so they can show that they're the type of person that can do more. I like to give this example. I had a guy, a friend of mine out here who came over to do some like yard work for me or whatever. Right. And so I gave this guy a car seat, my kid's car seat that's really dirty. And I said, hey, can you take off all the pads off the edge of this thing and like take off all the cover of it because it's really dirty so I can wash it. And so he took the car seat, he took off the pads and the cushions on it, and he took it all off and he set it next to the car seat, exactly like I told him to do. What was wrong with that? And in a way, it was like, I didn't think at the time it was a test, but in reality, it was a perfect test because the goal was not to have the cloth sitting next to the car seat for me to go and wash. The goal was to have a cleaned car seat. So yeah, if he would have taken that car seat, taken it all off, gone upstairs, washed it, dried it, put it back on, put it in the closet and said, hey, I did it for you. That is a lion killer, right? That's something that would have stood out. And I would have that type of person is so rare. So how can you find little ways to test people to find out if they're that type of person? That's a big piece of it. The second piece of it is when I implemented this book I told you about, Traction, it's called EOS. When I implemented this, my workload and my instructions to my team dropped to almost nothing, because when you have a system that runs your business versus you running your business, you don't have to tell people what to do. They set a goal for themselves. They set their weekly goal and publicly did it in one meeting. They say what they're going to get accomplished this week. They are tracking it on a graph that they have to show to the whole team. They are looking like a moron if they don't do the job that they just said last week they were going to do. And so the system manages them rather than the people manage them. So that's between hiring the right people and testing them first, and then having a system at which you operate the business so you're not operating it. Those are probably the two biggest keys to growth that I've ever encountered. So
awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. All right. Next one. All right. This one's I'm going to struggle with this one. Fahad Bean. How'd I do? Terrible?
No, it's behaving, Brandon.
Fine.
You're good though. You're good.
I was not even close, but what can I do for you?
Brandon, first of all, congratulations on both your new books. Can't wait to get them.
Thanks, man.
And my question is, what are your favorite tools for real estate? Because I know that you advocate PropStream, Deal Machine, Batch Leads. Because right now I have the Bigger Pockets Pro, and that's really good for me. and I'm using Cozy for my tenants. But do you believe? Well, it's a two-part question. Do you believe that there's a level for these tools? Because would you say like, oh, once you get 3 properties, you probably want to get batch leads, so you can get more deals coming in, or you want to probably use Deal Machine for your for the people that you're hiring? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a buddy of mine, Mike, is a photographer, or was a photographer at one point, a videographer, photographer. And he always says this quote to me. He always says, I don't know why, like it just comes up a lot. He says, the best camera is the one you have. So in other words, he's saying like people can compare, but I have a $10,000 camera and I only have an iPhone. But if I have my iPhone with me and you don't have your $10,000 camera, well, guess who has a better camera? I do, right? So the same principle applies for all these tools. There are 100,000 companies out there that provide tools for real estate. So for example, like Driving for Dollars, there's one called Driving for Dollars and one called Deal Machine. They both have their pros and cons. The best one is the one that you stick with, that you use, that you like, that feels good. So the first piece of it, of all those tools, is like, I could argue all day which is better of different things. And I happen to like certain ones. Like I like Deal Machine. I like the way it feels and flows for my like Driving for Dollars stuff. I don't use it for a CRM, even though they have a CRM built into it. I don't actually use it for that. One, because I don't do a lot of like the small deals anymore. And so I don't need a CRM for that. But two, I just started using Asana, which is a project management software. And that's what we've kind of just been using for tracking all of our leads. Because we just get it. We get Asana. It works. I like it. So again, it's like the camera. It's the one that you have, the one you understand, the one you're excited about is important. Yeah, things like batch leads, I think is great. It's a great product. I don't actually use batch leads much. I mean, I have a little bit in the past, but I just don't do that type of deal anymore. So I'm not really using it, but I know that a lot of people like it. Yeah, BP Pro is great for things like running the numbers on the calculators. I love that piece of it. I wish we had more products, which we are hopefully going to implement in. But yeah, there's direct mail companies out there. There's a bunch of them. So I'm not really sure if that answers the question, but I just know like they all work. All of these products work and they all have testimony of the people who work them, but 99% of people don't ever work any of them. They just pay for them and they don't use them. And that's the biggest problem I see. But
Yeah,
what do you think on that?
Yeah, that's good. And do you think like there's a level to that? Like, oh, once you're this level, like having like these multifamilies, do you think like, oh, they should probably get these tools? Or do you still believe that, oh, you got your own camera, so just work with what you got?
Yeah.
It's been working with you.
I think what you find is you start experiencing these stress points in your business where like, you're just like, there's gotta be an easier way. Like, for example, like, we were using Trello for a long time. Trello is another management software. And we were using that to like track all of our leads. But Trello didn't have the same, like we kept having like just issues as we were growing bigger and bigger. And so then the question is, well, how do we fix this issue that we're currently having? And that's when you start going on the search and you find out, oh, Asana is just like Trello, but on crack, I guess. Like, it's like, what? It's like hyper crazy. Can I say that in a small group of kids? I just did. So, or young people. So Asana is just like, it's just crazy good. Now that sounds like I'm saying crack is good. I'm just a terrible teacher here. So you find these problems, and when you have the problem, that's when it's time to upgrade. It's like when you get the stressing point, the stress point where it's like, I just can't handle this. We had I don't know what you call it, a deal raising money software before. And like, it just created such a headache because we had like 200 investors and every one of them we had to do this manual task. And it was like, there's gotta be a better way. And someone's like, actually, InvestNext does that automatically for you with the click of one button. And we're like, whoa. Now it's more expensive, but that's when we upgrade, is when we have those stress points. So yeah, you will definitely improve your tools as you go, and you'll get bigger and better tools. But most things out there are designed for, you'll be fine for years, most likely. It's really when you just shift into the big deals that you're going to have to start looking for more expensive tools. So yeah, hope that helps that.
Gotcha. Thank you, Brandon.
Cool, man. All right, next one. Jaden Bird.
I've been waiting. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm good, man. You're not related to the person who wrote the book Bird by Bird, are you?
No, sir.
Book. Darn. All right. Anyway.
Okay, so my question may seem broad, but how could you tell me right now how to make $100 million?
Ooh, all right, easy, because I'm going to do it. This is such a cool thing. No, I'm seriously going to do it. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to, this is actually my business plan right now. I'm going to buy $1 billion of real estate over the next 7 years. I have no doubt. We have 100 million under contract right now at this moment. Maybe 120 million under contract. I'm going to buy $100 million of real estate. Now you might be thinking, people are like, what the heck? How are you going to buy 100 million? Like, I raised the money for it, right? So I'm going to raise the money to buy $100 million of real estate. And now to do that, I have to give away a huge chunk of my income or my profit to my investors, which is fine. So I'll get to that. So I'm going to buy $1 billion of real estate. Over the few years after that, I'm going to turn that from 1 billion into 1.5 billion. Now that's, for those of you in real estate, understand, like, that's not a difficult thing. When you buy value add real estate, it goes up in value. You buy a property for $1 million, you manage it correctly for a few years, you improve the units, you raise the rent, and 7 years later, it's now worth $1.5 million. So taking that same principle, or you buy a house for 100,000 and later sell it for 150, totally doable. The exact same principle. I'm going to buy $1 billion. I'm going to turn it into 1.5 billion. That's $500 million in profit. But during that time, I'm also going to pay off the loan on some of that. So in reality, I'm not going to make 500 million. We're going to make $600 million. Now, my investors are going to get 2/3 of that. So what's 2/3 of 600 million? Roughly, was that $200 million I get left with? So my company will get $200 million, but now I don't get that. My team gets half of that. So I have partners. I have like 7 partners in Open Door Capital. I get half of that because I'm like the primary, I'm the guy that started it. And the other half goes to the rest of the team spread out, which means I get half of $200 million. So I'll get $100 million. So that's how you get $100 million is you buy $1 billion of real estate, make the value go up, and you get a piece of it. It's a fairly simple model that just has worked for many, many people over and over and over. And so now the biggest piece of that, though, is becoming someone who can raise the amount of money needed to buy $1 billion. And for that, it really helps to have a platform, what do I call it, like blog, podcast, YouTube, that kind of thing. You need, or just years and years of reputation to be able to raise that kind of money. So that's how you become $100 million guy.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I like that. That's a good question. It's a big question. Aiden Brust.
Yes.
All right.
What's up, Brandon?
What's up, man?
So my question is, out of all your podcast guests, what piece of advice or quote or anything has stuck with you the most? So I guess the one that comes to the top of your mind right now.
Yeah, that's pretty easy. There was a guy who you may have heard it before. I'm going to butcher his name now. Bryce Stewart, who said, you know what? I wanted to sell my truck. Maybe you've heard this before. I wanted to sell my truck, but I had a loan on it. I don't know how you sell a truck if you have a loan on it. He's like, so I just, for weeks, I didn't do anything. I wanted to sell my truck. I didn't know what to do, so I did nothing. He's like, and then one day I decided to just ask myself, well, what do I know how to do? I know how to vacuum my truck. So I walked up to my truck and I vacuumed it out. I vacuumed the truck. And he said, then I still didn't know how to sell a truck with a title on it, with a loan on it. So I knew how to take pictures though. So I took pictures of my truck. And then I knew how to list my truck I knew how to put it on Craigslist. So I put it on Craigslist. And he's like, a week later, my truck was sold. It was gone. Because at the end of the day, we can never see down the road a mile, but we can usually see about 50 feet in front of our car. So as long as you just keep driving forward, you're always going to be able to go a little bit further as long as you vacuum your truck. So in other words, the point he's making, and I know you all, you get the analogy, but it's, even if you can't see the end or how you're going to get somewhere, if you just take consistent action, daily consistent action, you're going to accomplish so much. That's why a huge piece of that journal that I talked about earlier, the intention journal, is every day on the daily action plan. I mean, if you did nothing but this one thing right here, it's going to change your life, is to identify your goal, identify your objective for the week. And then this is the key. Identify your most important next step, MINS. Most important next step. In other words, what is the vacuuming the truck that you need to do to get that? What's the most tangible, simple, usually less than 5-minute task that you need to do next? Because once you do that thing, then you'll figure out what the next step is. This is how every great CEO and person in the world, like, do you think Elon Musk had any idea how to get to Mars? Like, he had no idea in the beginning, but he's like, well, I could, build a rocket. Like, right. Like, I could order a rocket building kit from Amazon for $12. I bet that's how we started. It was like that, right? Like, what do you know? And then, so that piece of advice has stuck with me. So whenever I'm thinking, I don't know, like I get overwhelmed or I'm like, I don't know what to do. I just think vacuum my truck. So yeah, that stuck with me. Stuck with me.
Thank you.
I just made up a word, stuck. Y'all heard it here first. It stuck with me. All right. Next one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Caleb with no last name. I don't hear you, Caleb. I see. Oh, there you go.
What's up?
What's up, man? How you doing?
You hear me?
I do. I got you.
Sweet. So my question is, how beneficial do you think it would be to get your real estate, like to be an agent, to like just help with finding deals?
Yeah, great question. I think that like I said earlier, 99% of agents are terrible. And if you're a terrible agent, it's not going to help you at all get deals. It's just going to be complicated. It's going to be a bridge that you shouldn't be building. It's going to slow you down. It's going to be difficult. If you are willing to be in the 1%, which means you're going to read like Sold from David Green, or you're going to read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent from Gary Keller, and you're going to read you're going to study, you're going to become an amazing agent. Two things are going to happen. One, you're going to make a lot of money, and you're going to go a lot slower in your real estate at first because you cannot focus on two bridges. But that might be a worthwhile risk. So here's the bottom line is, if you want to be a great agent, then go be a great agent. And it's a great way to make a living. You have flexible hours. You have no cap on your income. It's fun. You get to meet with a lot of people and talk and stuff. But if you're not willing to do the work and go through the pain needed to become a great agent, then don't do it. You don't need one. I don't have my license. I never have. I probably never will. It's just, I would rather have an amazing agent on my side. So that's what I'd say.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Ben Furstenberg. How'd I do?
All right. Yeah, that was great.
All right.
I wasn't sure if we'd get to me or if we ran out of time, so I'm really excited. All right. So my end goal, say 15, 20 years down the line, is to get to syndication and development, sort of like you do, because I know that's how, as you were talking about earlier, that's how the big fortunes in real estate have been made. And right now I'm interning at a fund where I'm getting a chance to learn some of that stuff. And I'm leaning towards, or I'm really liking the acquisition side. And I really like that our head of acquisitions, he doesn't do any Excel. He doesn't do really anything. He just sits in his office and he makes phone calls all day. Yeah. He negotiates terms and he puts deals together. I think that's super cool. And so my question is, if you were someone who was working in a field like syndication and development, where your end goal was to be that general partner someday, how would you go about learning most effectively how to do that? And specifically, if you identify someone whose job you really like, how would you learn how to do that job? Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you an example. In our business, so Walker is my head of acquisitions. He's also my COO. And then Jay works with him, and Jay's my other acquisitions guy. So those two guys together just do all acquisitions. And that's what they're on the phone with brokers all day. They're running the numbers. They're trying to figure out how to get us deals, and they get us a lot of deals. Walker came to me as an intern. Walker was just an intern. He was working another job, and he volunteered, and he rebuilt my whole spreadsheet model and made it incredible. And then just hustled to help us get some deals. And so, like I said earlier, like if you have a skill set that's so good, like it doesn't matter about your age or anything like that. People will bring you on. Like you could, like, I would even say 15, 20 years down the road, like shorten that to 2 or 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road. Like if you're good at the acquisitions, which is not a terribly difficult thing to be good at, it just requires like dedication. It's like both Jay and Walker are very like, regimented is probably the best word. And that's what makes a good acquisitions person. And if you were an amazing acquisitions person and you knew how to talk the lingo and all that, and you did it, like even in your spare time, you're watching YouTube videos on deal, analysis on apartment complexes, like you're going to get in that position way sooner than you think, because especially acquisitions is the number one most important team member. You could argue it different ways, but I'd say it's everything. It's the lifeblood of your business. Without it, you have no business. And most people are terrible at being that diligent to be able to run a business that way. So acquisitions is a skill set that will pay you forever and get you into a GP, get you doing deals, because you've got the deal. When you have the deal, you can do whatever you want. So yeah, I don't know if that answers that question entirely, but just keep learning, become really good at that piece of it, and offer to pick up little things from that person if you can. Like don't, if you ask a person, hey, how can I help you? They're gonna be like, I don't know, I can't really help you with anything. But if you were like specifically like think through, watch some YouTube videos on deal analysis and be like, hey, what would you think about me? Every time you run the numbers on a deal, just give me your spreadsheet that you just ran and let me double check every one of your numbers just for free. I just want to do it in my spare time on the evenings, just in case 1 out of a million chance you made a mistake somewhere or you didn't see something, or I could, just double check your math. And they'd be like, well, that sounds great. And like, you're just trying to make their life easier. So that's what I do.
Sweet. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Good luck, man.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. We got a couple more, maybe. Let's see. Next one on the list. Eli Posnecker. I don't know. How'd I do?
That's the German pronunciation. It's pretty close.
All right.
Yeah, so,
wait.
Yeah. So I don't know if you remember this episode, but 364 you did with Avery Carl, like that changed my life. I bought a short-term rental in Pigeon Forge 2 months after that, and then I bought 2 more 4 months after that, and we're closing on 2 more in August.
Congrats.
So thank you. Yeah. So like that's my bridge that I'm building is short-term rentals. I'm kind of starting to exhaust the private money with that though. It's kind of an expensive niche, if you want to call it that. So I've started to exhaust it and I'm looking to keep growing. Would you think like open door capital type fund situation, or more like LLCs and having it be like manager managed type thing? Or what would your recommendation be for continuing that growth?
Yeah. I mean, my thought, blind funds was what we have, which is where we just collect a bunch of money. We can buy whatever we want. Those are very difficult. They require a tremendous amount of faith and trust from a lot of people. That's why I have one, because I know that millions of people listen to me on a podcast. So I know that I can raise that money, which I have. So I'm not sure I'd go that route. If you're having trouble with like exhausting private money, like the fund isn't going to be any better, right? You're going to still have, it's the same group of people are going to be giving you money. We just interviewed Tony Robinson from the Real Estate Rookie podcast. I think it just came out a few weeks ago on the Bigger Pockets, where he does short-term rentals. And what he does, and this is what I'm going to do, the same strategy is with my vacation rentals, because I'm doing vacation rentals here in Maui now, is partner with people. It's not so much private money, it's partnering. So, hey, you put the down payment, we buy it together, I manage it and take care of everything, and we split everything 50-50. And what Tony was saying is there's loans out there that you're allowed to have one vacation rental for 10% down. And the partner can get that 10%. Now, maybe I'm not sure if it's every area or just his area, but I think that's probably a fairly common thing. There's a bank thing that, so he'll partner with a guy, with John, let's say, and John can get that 10% down vacation rental loan. So together they buy it using John's vacation rental 10% loan. And then they split everything 50-50 going forward. And because vacation rentals are super profitable, that can work all day long. So that's what I'm going to be doing out here in Maui as well, is partnering with people to do that. So that's probably the route I would go. And then how do you find those people? Well, again, if you have the deals, you'll find the people if you're networking, because again, the numbers are really good on vacation rentals because it's not an investment really, right? It's a business. It means both, but it makes better returns because it's a business. So you run the business side, you bring in investors for the investor side, you're giving a 15% cash on cash return. You're going to have no problem finding unlimited partners if you're networking, going to things like BPCon or other real estate conferences and telling people what you do. And again, going back to what I said earlier, have a framework. Don't just say what I just all said. Have a name for it. Have a one-page PDF that explains the whole system. Oh yeah, this is what we do. It's the XYZ process. We partner with investors. And we have something in Open Door Capital called the Mobile Home Impact Program. People are like, oh, I want to join the impact program. As soon as we put a name to it, we raise like $500,000 in that little program that buys mobile homes. Basically, it's complicated, but that's why we have a name for it. It's the impact program. So anyway, that's what I would say is I'd go that route if I were you.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, LLCs would still probably be good in there, but yeah, I'd just probably go one-off LLCs with people and go that route.
Okay, thank you.
Cool, man.
Hey,
all right.
Brandon,
Well,
I'm going to jump in here. We're at the top of the hour. I'm guessing you probably have a full schedule for the rest of your day.
I do have a call. Let me give the guy a quick 5-minute delay thing, and then maybe do a couple more. What do you think?
That'd be great.
Oh, he actually texted me. Hey, I need 5. Okay, I got 5 minutes. All right. Let's go through a couple more. Taylor Thompson.
Hey, Brandon, I just wanted to say thank you for your podcast. Me and my girlfriend were able to buy a $500,000 rent by bedroom house hack at 19 and 17.
That's
Your podcast
awesome.
is awesome. But the question that I had is, what kind of cash flow can you expect from like a mobile home park or like a really massive apartment complex?
Yeah, good question. So when I buy like the larger deals, it's different. Like the smaller deals, I'd look at like, I want $100 per unit, right? Or $200 per unit. With the mobile home parks, we back into a purchase price. So we did I lose somebody? I don't think so. So we back into, is my internet acting crappy? I have a feeling my internet's crappy. You guys still there? Oh no. Oh, I'm good. Okay. Okay. All right, I thought I lost y'all. So we back into a purchase price and then therefore a cash flow amount based on, we want to give our investors a 15% per year average on their money. So let's say they get 2% the first year, 5% the second year, 10% the third year, 15% the fourth year. And then when we sell it, they make a bunch of profit on top of that. When you average all of that out, we want it to average 15% per year or more. And so and then based on that, it lines up everything else, like dollar amount cash flow and how much money I make as a GP and fees and all that gets worked out backwards from a 15% per year average is what we look for. And so that's how the bigger deals, how we look at it, and how most the larger syndicators and stuff, they have a number and then they just back into it. So that's what we look for.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Next one, Connor Olson.
Hey, Brandon.
What's up, Connor?
I was wondering what you would consider your biggest inflection point when you were a new investor.
What do you mean by inflection point?
Kind of where maybe your proof of concept went off and you decided like real estate investing, you're just going to go all in for it.
Okay, I like this. There's probably a few of those moments. The first one was when I bought a duplex just because I needed a place to live, and I lived in one unit and rented the other out. And I actually wrote about this in the first chapter of The Multifamily Millionaire, Volume 1. Pre-order now. So in the first chapter, I tell the story of how I'm standing in this driveway between these two houses. I live in one, they live in the other. And the tenant, who was a buddy of mine, which is a bad idea, but he hands me $650 in cash. And I'm like, whoa, my mortgage is only $620. I'm living for free. It was amazing. It was such a great feeling. And so at that moment, I was like, I'm going to buy multifamily. If I can do this with this duplex, why can't I do it with a 4-unit, a 10-unit? So that was a huge moment that shifted me going, I want to get into this full time. Another thing that did that is when I got that refinance on that Burr property, the very first one where I added my dad on, I was like, whoa, I can buy real estate with no money down if I just do this. I use hard money to buy it and then refinance it with a partner later. I was like, I could do that all day long and build a huge portfolio. That was like this mind expanding point. Before all of that, though, was I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and there was a line in there that said, poor people say I can't afford it. Rich people ask, how do I afford it? That one line changed my life entirely. It just set it on a new direction. And then finally, the last point that changed everything is when I went to a conference, a real estate conference, and everyone there was doing more than me. Everyone was doing big stuff. I mean, I'm Brandon Turner from the podcast. I'm a keynote speaker, and I was like the dumbest guy in the room. And that's a room that you want to be in, right? Being the dumbest guy in a room is a great place to be, because I was like, I can do more. I'm better than this. I can do bigger stuff. And that when I flew home from that conference and I made up my entire plan for my vivid vision for where my company is headed. This is literally what I made. Check this out. Right there. So that is a newspaper article written 3 years in the future about my company. I wrote it on the plane ride. That's exactly what I wrote on the plane ride. And it was to own $50 million of real estate. And now today, like I said, we have over $100 million in real estate under contract at this moment. We own about 60. So we're going to have about 160, 170, 180 within a few months from now. So I just blew past my goal. I mean, I'm going to be 4 times bigger than my goal was. So that was a huge inflection point as well, where it was just I call those pivot moments, where it's like your entire life's going in one direction and you just pivot a little bit and go in another one. So those are the 4 big ones. All right. Cool, man. All right. Last raised hand I think I didn't get to yet was Lily. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. What's up, Lily?
Brandon, who is your mentor right now, and how you decide who is gonna be your mentor in the future?
Good question. So mentorship is interesting in my mind. So like I said earlier, I had that guy Kyle was kind of a mentor, but in reality, like I never even thought of it as a mentorship early on. Like it wasn't until years later that terminology even came into my life, or there's things called mentors. The word I used was like the F word, friend, right? Like it was like, he was just a friend of mine. He was an older friend of mine, but he was a friend of mine. And like that was it. So anyway, I had Kyle back then. So today when I think of like mentors, I just think of like, I don't have an official one. I don't pay somebody. I don't have a guy I meet with every week, mentorship. I have a performance coach, but then I think of like the friends that I have that are influencing and make me better. And that would be like Josh Dorkin, founder of Bigger Pockets, an amazing entrepreneur. AJ Osborne, who I mentioned earlier, the self-storage king. Taro Yarbu, who lives like a block from me, is an amazing operator, just knows how to run a business really well. And so I learned a ton from him. Ryan Murdoch, Brian Murray, my partners in Open Door Capital, like I learned from them. So yeah, I just eliminate the word mentorship pretty much from my life. And I just think, who can I be friends with? And who can I just get in their circle with and learn from and grow from? And there's a lot of mentors in your life when you go that route. Cool.
Brandon, we're going to let you go here, buddy, but thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Giving us your time. Tons of great information.
This is fun. I love doing Q&A. We should do it again sometime. This is fun stuff.
Oh, we will. We'll be in touch. Get on with the rest. I know in Hawaii, I think it's only noon. So you got
yeah, it's 12 o'clock. I got to call I got to call my performance coach next, who's I love meeting with performance coaching and masterminding. They're like the two things that changed my life more than almost anything. Getting together and working on your life rather than in your life. Like once in a while, it changes everything. So you guys are on the right path, showing up like this. It's great.
All right. Thanks so much, Brandon.
Thanks all.
If you like this video and want to see more like it, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You should also go check out our website and Instagram, which are both linked below this video. Thanks again for watching. Now go and get your freak on.